romantic soul vocals enjoyed a golden age in the 1970s, with the ascent of artists such as Donny Hathaway, Marvin Gaye, and Stevie Wonder. All three of those singers influenced the style of Kenny Lattimore, who joined a host of other neo-soul vocalists in the late 1990s and seemed to cement a second golden age for R&B recordings that celebrated romance and laid bare its complex emotions. Kenny was born on April 10, 1970 in Washington, D.C. He was one of 7 children in a church-going and musically active family. His mother, an educator, and his father, who drove for the local public transit agency, separated when he was just 2 years old. After that, he was raised by his mother and, as Kenny calls him, a wonderful stepfather. It shouldn't be a surprise that Kenny gravitated towards music at a young age, as everyone on both sides of his family were all either preachers or singers. He sang in church and at neighborhood gatherings, and his family backed him up by providing singing lessons. A premonition of things to come was seen at a junior high school talent show where he excelled in a performance of Watching You, the 1980 hit by funk band Slave. In high school, Kenny's choral instructor, internationally noted conductor, arranger, and educator, Dr. Barbara Baker, really took him under her wing, challenging him with certain songs and teaching him how to sing with conviction. At 14, he began expanding his range and repertoire by singing in nightclubs. After graduating high school, Kenny enrolled in Howard University in 1985, majoring in architecture and planning. But it didn't take long for him to be drawn back into music. The woman who would later become his manager saw him perform and immediately booked him for a vocal session with a group she was managing at the time called Mannequin. It was his first time in the studio, and he proved himself tenfold. Kenny's personal life, though, was to turn upside down. His mother had been diagnosed with multiple myeloma. She would pass away in 1988. He decided then to leave Howard and commit to performing with Mannequin full-time. The group eventually landed a deal with Epic Records and released their self-titled debut album. The lead single, I Wanna Ride, served as a response to Pebble's hit song, Mercedes Boy, in both style and lyrics, with both tracks produced and co-written by Charlie Wilson of the Gap Band. Unfortunately, the album went nowhere, so Kenny decided to leave the group. He then worked with some other groups and even secured another record deal that also went nowhere. After all of that disappointment, Kenny stopped pursuing music altogether. He started working in youth ministry at his local church as well as some regular 9-to-5 jobs. That didn't last long though, as he quickly realized that his heart was somewhere else. In 1995, Kenny decided to give his music career another shot by moving to New York City. There, he recorded a demo that caught the ear of Columbia A&R man Matt Jones. Never Too Busy, Kenny's debut single, was released by Columbia in April 1996. It became a top 20 R&B hit, coming in at number 19. His self-titled debut album dropped the following month. Never Too Busy, plus the second single called Just What It Takes, propelled the album to gold status. From the beginning, the label tried to capitalize on Kenny's good looks, staging a promotional event exclusively for female reporters before focusing on males with its PR efforts. But his appearance was timed well among listeners of both genders. The year 1996 marked the beginning of a resurgence of traditional R&B vocals, albeit mixed with hip-hop production techniques, as a counterweight to the hip-hop domination of radio airwaves. Despite all of his success, however, Kenny discovered that he was in a bit of a competition at Columbia with another up-and-coming balladeer by the name of Maxwell, whose debut album was released within a month of Kenny's, going double platinum. So when it came time to release Kenny's next single, a lot was riding on the outcome. That song would not only give Kenny a breakout hit, but also become an instant wedding anthem. For You went to number 6 on the R&B Songs chart, made it into the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100, gave Kenny his first Grammy nomination, and became his signature song. All I do is for you. When he returned to the studio to record his next album, he took the reins by producing and co-writing several songs on the record. From The Soul of Man dropped in 1998. 4 singles were released: Days Like This, If I Lose My Woman, Heaven and Earth, and Love Will Find a Way, a duet with Heather Headley. Days Like This and If I Lose My Woman didn't do well on the R&B Songs chart, but it did come in at number 4 and number 10 respectively on the Urban Adult Contemporary chart. even though by now Kenny was regarded as one of the top balladeers of the time. When his sales figures didn't keep up with his reputation, Columbia let him go. He'd get back on track thanks to Clive Davis, then president at Arista Records, when he signed Kenny to a new contract. But while Kenny was in the midst of recording his next album for Arista, Clive left the label to form J Records. Kenny eventually released a more contemporary R&B album, 2001's Weekend, under L.A. Reid's regime. The title track and first single was anchored by a sample of Blondie's Rapture. Again, it didn't do well on the R&B songs chart, but came in at number 12 on the Urban Adult Contemporary chart. Around this time, Kenny's personal life took a turn for the better. His friend Will Downing invited Kenny to come and see his upcoming show. The artist who was opening for him was Chante Moore. At this point, Kenny had never seen Chante perform live. He found himself being blown away not only by her talent, but also her beauty. So he made his way backstage to meet her. After 6 months of dating, Kenny and Chante married in January 2002. The following year, the couple released a debut album titled Things That Lovers Do, consisting of covers of soul classic 1970s and 1980s duets, plus 2 new original songs. The standout singles were Lovable From Your Head to Your Toes and a cover of Renee and Angela's You Don't Have to Cry. The album also gave Kenny his best placement on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart, peaking at number 3. The album not only put his music on center stage again, but also his marriage, arousing troubling emotions and memories he'd kept buried for most of his adult life. A few years after the birth of Kenny and Chante's son, Kenny Lattimore Jr. in 2003, Kenny did an interview with Essence. He was asked if he had any fears concerning his son. He quickly answered no, but then he looked over at his son. He then admitted that he didn't want his son to go through what he went through as a child. At the age of 5, Kenny was sexually molested by a man. Thankfully, over time, he's only become stronger as he's owned this part of his life. Kenny and Chante released their second collaborative album, titled Uncovered Covered, in 2006. 2 years later, he dropped his first solo album in 7 years, titled Timeless, for Verve Records. After that, Kenny then stepped away from his career to become a full-time dad. During this same time, however, his marriage was falling apart. After 9 years together, Chante filed for divorce in 2011. Then, in 2013, she joined the cast of TV1's R&B Divas Los Angeles, where she took it upon herself to put Kenny, their marriage, and their fallout on full blast. The way Chante tells it, she only did that after Kenny filed for custody of their son. According to Kenny, though, that's not what happened at all.
When you divorce somebody, it's a legal court case. It's a lawsuit. So it was her lawsuit, and the lawsuit contains your marriage, custody of your children, and finances. So if I don't agree with you, I respond to your lawsuit. I've never sued Chante Moore.
To take things a step further, during a reunion episode of the reality show, Chante made an insinuation about Kenny's sexuality. While he thought it was a reckless thing to do, he refused to get angry and retaliate. Kenny carried on with life, reestablishing his career as a live performer. In 2012, Kenny was working on a new album called Back to Cool. During a performance at BB King's in New York City, he mentioned that in the last 6 months, he'd really found his purpose musically. He explained to YouKnowIGotSoul.com, "I think that singing love songs for as long as I've been doing it, sometimes it just feels like I'm a singer, I sing love songs. And then it's like I'm a singer and I sing love songs. And there's a new purpose and new energy I feel about it. I know that when I did my From the Soul of Man CD, I was talking about the music saying the things that we don't always say because music does that for us. I began to embrace more on this CD the fact that I believe probably the purpose is speaking to the hearts of women and the minds of men and encouraging in love and in relationships, and that's the purpose of the music in a larger scale." After starting his own record company, Sincere Soul Records, Kenny began releasing several projects on it. Anatomy of a Love Song in 2015, A Kenny Lattimore Christmas in 2016, and Vulnerable in 2017. While a few people were able to get their hands on the Back to Cool album from retailers like Amazon, It was never officially released. On March 8, 2020, Kenny married for the second time to Judge Faith Jenkins in Los Angeles, California. In an exclusive interview with Us Weekly, Faith said that the couple first met on a blind date through her friend, music producer Aaron Lindsay, 1 year prior. She wanted to find someone to help her record some Christmas music, and Aaron had the perfect person in mind, Kenny. However, Faith admitted that sparks didn't fly during their first encounter. The first time we met was for lunch, and we talked for 2 hours. I don't know that there was a real spark at first, but it was a genuinely interesting conversation. Kenny actually thought I wasn't that interested because I didn't per se flirt with him. It was lunch. I was just looking for good conversation and to enjoy my turkey club. The flirting would come later, which it did. In April 2020, Kenny got a phone call on behalf of an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years. That friend was none other than Michael Jordan, whom Kenny first met nearly 25 years prior. In the mid-1990s, Michael became one of Kenny's highest profile and most authentic fans during the Chicago Bulls' second three-peat. Kenny was informed during the phone call that a never-before-seen moment of Michael's admiration of his music would be depicted in The Last Dance, a 10-part docuseries chronicling the shooting guard's incredible career with the Chicago Bulls through the lens of the team's dynasty-ending 1997-98 season. The call to Kenny served as an official request, in respect of music licensing, to feature his track Days Like This in the documentary. Kenny told Enscape.com, "I never saw the footage beforehand, but they said, we want to use Days Like This. They said someone is going to ask Michael what he's listening to, and he's going to say Kenny Lattimore. I knew something like that was going to happen, but I didn't know what the clip was going to be. It could have been anything. It could have been him walking into a hotel. It could have been him getting into the car. But he happens to be using Days Like This as hype music? I was totally floored. I had no idea." A minute into the 10th and final episode, that moment arrived at last. The opening scene shows Michael, clad in a backward Kangol hat, Oakley sunglasses, and headphones, bopping to the music in the back of a team bus on June 3rd, 1998, 6 hours before tip-off of the NBA Finals between the Bulls and Utah Jazz. A fellow passenger does ask what he's listening to. Michael not only mentions Kenny's name, but calls him a friend, and boasts that he got an advance copy of his album before its official release. After the episode aired, the moment became a viral meme on social media, and even had its own handle, @JordanJamming. On the final night of The Last Dance, Kenny hopped on Twitter to confirm that Michael did in fact have the album in June 1998, 4 months before its October 1998 release. That moment shows the power of music in anyone's life. It's an inspiration. It sets the tone for what you're going to do. And for my music to be in his ears at such a pivotal time, at such an iconic time, it makes me feel like my music is always going to be tied to greatness for the rest of my life. Kenny's last album to date, Here to Stay, dropped in 2021. The single, Take a Dose, went to #1 on the Urban Adult Contemporary chart. In January 2023, Kenny and Faith welcomed a daughter, Skylar Lee Lattimore. Today, Kenny continues to tour and focus on his family. He and Faith celebrated their 5-year wedding anniversary in March 2025 with an Instagram post that went viral, racking up over 6 million views as of the making of this video.